What's up, guys? It's Tony with the Grill. Today we're working on one of the biggest issues with the Jeep JK, JKU, years 2011 to 2018 on the Jeep Pentastar engine 3.6 liter, and that is the dreaded oil cooler. So let's go ahead and get to it. So I used to work at the Chrysler dealership, and I used to do these oil coolers all the time. So I'm going to show you how to do this oil cooler as easy as possible. Plus, to make it even easier, I'm going to link all my Amazon links in the description to all the parts and tools that I'm using. Also, I have a little bit of help today.
What up?
My cousin Josh. This is actually his Jeep. So we're going to go ahead and get this oil cooler on this Jeep and show you guys how to do it. Let's get to it.
Let's roll.
So the first thing we're going to do is take out the two bolts holding the intake tube down, and then we're going to remove the overflow tube from the intake tube. And then we're going to loosen up the two clamps that are holding the intake tube to the intake box and the throttle body. And then we're going to go ahead and take that out of there. Make sure when you pull that out of there, you disconnect the idle air control valve, because if you don't do that, you're going to mess up the wiring. So definitely make sure you unhook it. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove the two vacuum lines on top of the intake. Then we're going to remove the two bolts holding down the connector on top of the intake. And then we're going to remove the two bolts holding the bracket to your AC lines. Next, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the throttle body. And then we're going to remove the harness that's on the side of the throttle body. And then we're going to go ahead and disconnect the mass airflow sensor. All right, we're going to pop this off.
I could help you.
Oh, that's all right.
I guess I am helping.
You are helping.
Running the...
Yeah, you are helping. All right, so the worst part about doing this is just getting the upper intake bolts off of these brackets here. There's two 10s that you got to get off, and then the brackets are bolted to the engine up in the front here by the throttle body, and then back in the back. So I'm going to get these 10s off, and then we're going to just loosen those bolts up just to get the bracket out of the way. And then actually I might take the front bracket off, but we're just going to get those brackets so they're out of the way so we can unbolt this upper intake and pull it off there really quick. All right, don't do what I did. I just got the gun jammed. That was smooth on my side of it. There we go. Got that bracket off there. Now we're gonna work on the back bracket. I'm gonna have to get some different tools to get those off. You know what song that is?
No.
I don't either.
I don't know either.
I just remember.
Maybe somebody in the comments would tell us.
Yeah. It's a commercial. I know it's a commercial.
Yeah.
From like the 90s. I feel like it's at 90s, definitely.
Yeah. Don't drop them down to the floor now.
Yeah, let's try not to do that.
That'd be stuff I do.
These bolts are definitely a pain to get to. This is not like I can't really show you what I'm doing, but you will see them. You'll see the bracket bolted to the upper intake.
Let's see if I can get a good shot down in there.
They're so hard to get to.
Yeah, that is down in there.
There it went. The walk of shame. Oh, there it is. So you might just have to lay on your engine bay to get down in here and get it. But you can get it. All right, so there's some wiring harnesses that are on your upper intake. You just got to make sure all the harnesses are disconnected from it. Everything's out of the way, so when you go to unbolt this upper intake, you're not getting stuck with the harness still attached to it.
All right, now we're finally going to start unbolting the upper intake so we can get this off here.
Don't forget to get this bolt in the very back. Don't start yanking on it or whatever. You're gonna break your upper intake. So make sure you get that bolt out in the back of it. Usually sneak it out. There it is. There's the upper intake and mouse nest. All right, so we got the upper intake out of the way. Now we got to get the lower intake out. So what we're going to do is unhook all the injectors. You can leave the fuel line on there and just move it to the side. I'm not quite sure. I might just completely disconnect it and take it out of there. But so now what we need to do is unhook these injectors, and then we can unbolt the lower intake and get it off there. So let's get to it. All right, now that I got done struggling with trying to disconnect these fuel injectors, you can leave the fuel rail bolted up to this lower intake. So we're just gonna unbolt this lower intake, get it pulled out of there, and then it's gonna open it up so we can get to this oil cooler. All right, there is a wiring harness that's clipped in the back of this lower intake here. So you gotta make sure you get that popped out of that intake so it'll free it up so you can pull this out of here. So that's what we're gonna get unpopped now, and then we should be able to get this lower intake out now.
So I decided I'm going to go ahead and get this fuel line off of here so I can completely get this lower intake out of the way. So I'm not fighting with it when I'm trying to get this oil cooler out.
Yeah, that will good. All right, we're also, since we have all this stuff off here, we're going to replace all the O-rings. And the oil cooler that we got from Amazon actually looks like it comes with all the O-rings. We did buy them separately, but it doesn't look like we're gonna have to use those ones. It looks like the oil cooler comes with everything. So that makes it pretty nice. So now we got this off. Now we can clean up in there and then get the oil cooler out of there. Okay, once you get that lower intake off, there's always all kinds of crud around your intake ports here. So what I like to do is take some paper towels, shove down in those holes just to keep from stuff falling down in there. And then I'm gonna take a shop vac and try to get all the stuff vacuumed up so nothing's falling down into your valves.
Now we're going to go ahead and unbolt the 5 bolts that are holding the oil cooler down.
clamp this off first. Probably be a good idea. There we go. That'll work a little better. Now with that up here, you can kind of get to it a little easier. I started out using Matco tools, and then I went to
Yeah.
Mac.
Yeah, I remember when you made that switch over.
Yep. Never really used Snap-on.
High priced.
Yeah.
Now you gotta love me some
Now I use Harbor Freight all the time.
Harbor Freight, man. Nothing wrong with their Icon stuff, I'll tell you that.
Nope, I'll never go and buy expensive tools anymore.
Waste money on all that stuff.
There's only some things that you might need a little bit better quality, but
Yeah. I tell you what, man, 90% of their hand tools, though, man, I
Yeah,
don't
no
think
problem
you're
with
ever
them.
gonna have a problem with them.
nope.
Not to mention, you break them, you take them back to the dang store,
Yep.
and we have a Harbor Freight close, so a little bit of will.
All right, so we gotta get all the fluid out of there. So what I'm gonna do, normally I'd use a fluid extractor. I don't have one at my shop, so I'm just gonna stuff a bunch of paper towels in there, try to soak up as much as I can, and then just use some needle nose pliers and pull all that out of there. So let's see here if we can get this as clean as possible. All right, it's finally time to get this oil cooler on here, and I ended up putting my torque sequence here on the board. If you can kind of see it, my drawings aren't the best, but the bottom one here is the oil cooler. So you put it up there, want to be this back corner, then 5, 4, 2, and 3. So that's the sequence you want to torque these in, and they're like 8.8 foot-pounds or something like that. So I'm going to torque them to about 9 foot-pounds. To be honest with you, normally I just I put them on there, choke up on the 3/8 ratchet, and usually that's good enough. But in this video, we're going to go ahead and torque them. So let's get this on there. All right, now we're going to get those down there. So I'm going to go ahead and get the coolant hose and get these sensors hooked in. Then I'll set this down here. This came with new bolts, so we'll use the torque sequence that I have over there, torque them to about 9 foot-pounds. Like I said, normally I don't torque them. I just choke up on a 3/8 ratchet and kind of go by feel. Never had problems that way, but video, we're going to do the torque sequence and torque it right. All right, now we got to make sure we had all this stuff in the intake ports. Make sure you take all that out so you don't burn that up when you start up your engine. Cause problems.
Now after having the lower intake torqued, now you can go ahead and plug in the fuel injectors. Okay, since we're getting the intake back on there, I'm going to go ahead and skip through some of the stuff putting back on there just because it's kind of boring to watch. But just make sure you get all your brackets back on there, all your vacuum lines back on there, and just double check your work. Make sure everything's put back on there. If you're not too sure, just rewatch the beginning of the video.
All right, so we're just about done. All we got to do is get this intake tube in, and that is all we have left on this. And then we're going to go ahead and drain the oil because we have a new filter in there, so you might as well do your oil change while we're here. So we're going to get this on here, and when you're done with it, definitely make sure you check your coolant because you had the hose and stuff off, and take it out on the road, drive it with the heat on, make sure you get all your air pockets out just in case. But yeah, we're going to get this on here and get that oil drained, and we're good to go. All right, so that's it. We're completely done. So if you guys have any questions, just leave a comment in the comment section. And like I said, if you need any of these parts or tools that I use in this, I'm going to link them in the description. They're Amazon links, so go check them out. You guys have a good one.